Greetings. This is Mr. Nobody, another chapter on the MAGA Republican. This time, we're going to talk about tariffs. Now, some people objected to the Trump tariffs, particularly of China, but really, tariffs properly used can be and should be and would be and will be a good thing. As I say, properly used. Was it properly used? To some degree. Enough to have made a difference. And one of the things we saw was that after all these years and years that jobs were leaving America and going everywhere, China, Mexico, you name it. Now, for this brief little period in America's lives, the jobs were actually coming back here. Companies that had been shut down, they thought for keeps, were reopening, hiring workers here, workers going to work. Made in USA became something of a thing again, and it was a real progress. Were we being selfish? No, really. In fact, we're being generous because when you make them here, they cost more, except for shipping costs. And the reason is very obvious because we have laws. And even if sometimes some of the laws we have that can be excessive, and there's tons of them I think we could strip out without any real loss. But at the core of it all, there's always going to be some laws that actually are of value in keeping any business venture whatsoever operating in a manner that is legitimate. See, we have laws about, everything. We have responsibilities to our stockholders. We have responsibilities to our employees. We have responsibilities to our customers. We have a responsibility to the world at large, which could include things like the environment as well as lesser things, such as parking or what have you. And finally, we have a responsibility to be a legitimate business. It's the fivefold responsibilities of every business concern. The first is to the stockholders. Make a reasonable, not ridiculous or exorbitant, mind you, but reasonable profit that can pay a reasonable dividend for the stock shares or result in a stock that grows in a reasonable, but generally productive manner. Number two, to the employees, to give them a living wage, safe working conditions, and other basic benefits that we come to take for granted here in this country. Once upon a time, unions had to struggle to try to claim for our workers. They shouldn't have to do that, and to some degree here, they really haven't needed to anymore. And our responsibilities to our customers to provide a product of quality that is safe. We're not talking about, we're not selling toys to kids that have small parts they could swallow if they're small kids, or just be injurious in some way or another. And customer service, the ability to have something repaired, returned, replaced if something's wrong. These are these responsibilities we have to the customer, to the world at large. Environmental impact. We don't just go dumping our industrial sewage in rivers. Maybe once a long time ago it was thought we could do that and it wouldn't matter. As we got more and more industrial activity, that really became clear that was messing up our rivers. The fish were dying, and that had to change. So now we've got laws about that, and that's a good thing, you see. And sometimes, like I said, it could be other things like noise pollution or parking. Other considerations can sometimes enter in, but we have a responsibility to the community as well. Providing something that's useful and legitimate to the people. And then the fifth responsibility is what I just have to call, for lack of a better description, legitimacy. That means our businesses aren't things like something illegal, like illegal narcotics. We're not making or selling fentanyl, for example. It's just to sell to people so our kids can eat too much and die. Or also that our companies are real businesses, and not, say, pyramid schemes that the later investors get money from the earlier investors, get money from the later investors, and so on it goes until at some point nobody's investing, and some poor later on a group of investors lose everything. You know, I mean, so legitimacy just means you're not doing something that's immoral or wrong or unjust. Those are it. Everything that concerns any business venture whatsoever, any kind, whether it's growing potatoes or manufacturing staplers or shipping, packages, or you name it, fixing plumbing, whatever, fixing cars, making cars, maintaining roadways, all of it, all of the businesses that we have of every kind, these same responsibilities always exist, and there are laws, and there's some overhead that this generates. That's life. We accept that. It may raise prices a bit, but you're paying for something that's a good thing. Now, you go to these other countries where they don't have these laws. You don't have to worry about any individual stockholders. You just have whoever owns it makes, exorbitant amounts of money. They work their workers to death, dangerous working conditions. They get injured. Oh, well, too bad. We'll just hire somebody else now because you broke your hand. You can't work for us anymore. You're useless now. You're fired. They can do whatever they want in the environment. If it involves animals, it can be all kinds of needlessly cruel, and nobody's going to care. I mean, there's just no laws over there. So you could say, well, that makes things very, very cheap. Cheap enough even to warrant the price of shipping stuff from somewhere where they can do stuff that way to over here. Well, the cost of shipping doesn't even begin to make up for that difference. As we know, if it did, we probably wouldn't need to worry about tariffs. But we have tariffs to even the playing field. They want to cut prices by all these unjust things. Well, here's the proper thing. The tariff makes up for that. And the tariff, once collected, would go towards foreign aid that has to be used for things that are helpful to the people there. Hospitals, roadways, infrastructure, things of that nature that will still benefit the people. So that even though they didn't get paid by their company, you see, they got paid in a more general way. So it works good for their good. It works for our good because the jobs will mostly come back here, yeah, but they'll still have the jobs for their own economy, for other economies. And the real goal is that if they just simply follow all the same rules we do, then there wouldn't need to be any tariff whatsoever. You followed all the rules, you took care of your employees, your customers, your stockholders, you had no bad environmental impact, you're not running anything illicit or immoral. You're doing something reasonable and decent, a good, productive business. You're following all the things. Just bring stuff in, no tariff, free of charge. That's free trade. Now, you could take an opposite extreme. Well, you don't do business our way, we can't do it at all. That's how gangsters operate. No, you just balance it out, and that's what tariffs are good for. They balance things out. And that is about making fair trade around the world. And that's sort of another difference between the globalists and and what we're talking about. We're respecting nations. We can't tell them what to do. We can't. But we can tell them, here's how it works if you want to do business with us. You're going to face a tariff if you don't get your act together in these ways. Maybe they don't mind that tariff. Maybe they did. Maybe they will. The decision is theirs. And maybe somebody here may want something over there. Maybe because nobody makes quite the same thing here quite the same way. You're not going to stop anybody from buying anything they want. But what you are going to do is you're going to make sure that when we buy something, we've either follow these rules indirectly, voting as it were, with our purchasing decisions to keep good, honest, thriving companies alive, Or if they do go overseas, which some share will inevitably do, you know, even there, the tariffs collected get turned right around to foreign aid. Now, how's that for fair? We're doing what we can for the whole world. We're not being selfish. We're just operating within the limits of what we can operate. We can do some good things. Maybe not as much as we'd like, but we can do good things. And that's all I have to say about tariffs. Thanks for listening.